But over to you. Over to you.
Yes. So we've got a number of people here, which is great, and we've got quite a lot to discuss, haven't we, since our last meeting? We have had the reality check of the local elections coming forward, which for us in Wakefield has had a massive impact on the makeup of the council. We'll see what an impact it has on their policy as they get to launch that. They've gone into a month of lockdown or something at the moment. They're reading everything. So we shall wait and find out. They're getting the mayor chains off the current mayor tomorrow, and then after that we'll wait and see. But it's not just locally that we've got all sorts of policy changes. We've got lots of other things as well internationally. Do people know each other? Do we need to do a run round, or shall we go straight into Sam's going to sort of lead a discussion, aren't you, on the sort of the geopolitical situation as we've gone for since the beginning of the year. We've had a large amount of political change on the international stage as well. So where we might have been hoping that COP policy was going to be enacted and climate justice was going to be a reality, it's not quite there yet. Shall I pass over to you, Sam?
It's the first time I've actually been to one of these, so I would appreciate a round of introductions, as I don't know everybody. Please, Catherine.
All right, let's go for that then. Yes, thank you. Hello, I'm Catherine. I'm an NEU Green Rep, and I've been coming along to lots of these meetings. So I happened to turn up at the meeting when there was Sam was having to withdraw as the chair, because he now works for the national TUC, and so I'm at the moment I'm the sort of convening or whatever. Shall I pass on to Jo?
Hi everyone, I'm Jo Cutter and I work on green stuff at the University of Leeds. I'm a Unite rep and I also do research in this area.
What am I here for? Shall we go to Jessica?
Hiya, I'm Jess Fox. I'm the branch environment officer for Hull City Council.
Excellent, excellent. And then I've got Christopher.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's my first one today, but I'm Yorkshire Ambulance and lead health and safety rep for GMB Union.
Excellent. The ambulance service are doing this, but we've had a couple of other people from the ambulances before, so that's really good. Pete?
Pete Keel. I'm an an activist in equity. I'm a member of the Caldwell Climate Action Partnership. I'm involved in the regional TUC's Creative and Leisure Industries Committee, which has declared a climate emergency some time back.
Excellent. Sam, you better say who you are too.
Thanks. Hi everyone, I'm Sam Perry. I'm policy lead for warm homes and retrofit and green reps for the TUC.
Marvellous. And here's a fine green rep of Sarah Fishwick. Sarah.
Yeah, I haven't been to this meeting before, but Catherine asked me to come. I'm from Global Learning Leeds, which is a small charity in Leeds. And she asked me to come and talk a little bit about climate curriculum work in schools.
Of course, you do work a lot in schools as well. You study as well, don't you? And Julie?
Yeah, I actually work in a school as a teaching assistant. I'm the environmental officer for York City Unison branch.
Marvellous. And Stuart?
Hi everybody, I'm Stuart Boothman. I'm an NEU member and member of the NEU Climate Network. I'm also chair of Just Transition Wakefield and chair of Wakefield's District Net Zero Partnership.
Excellent. And Dave Douglas?
Hi, I'm a national GMB rep at Centrica. Sit on the GMB CEC in an energy seat. And I'm also the chairperson of the new organisation between GMB and Prospect, which is Climate Jobs UK.
You see, we all learn stuff every time we hear all these new things. And then Pat?
Hi, I'm Pat Heron. I'm the chair of Unison's Northern Region Women's Network. We are very interested in what's happening in the climate, and we actually have one of our female members who sits on the network who is representative for us for the climate issues, and I'm also the staff side lead for health and safety within the trust that I'm in, and we do work with our green reps as well across the board.
Fabulous. I'm very glad you asked for this explanation. And Leanne?
Hello. So my name's Leanne Vickers. I work for Leeds City Council and I'm the Green Rep for Unite's branch there at the council.
Marvellous. Some fabulous people all working really, really hard. And one of the reasons that we need to make sure we keep meeting is so that we can support each other in what is can be challenging times, and we need to make sure that we're all learning from each other at all these times. So thank you very much indeed, everyone, for coming to the meeting. Now shall I pass over to Sam to do your your bit there?
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's great to thanks, Catherine, and yeah, great to get everyone's credentials all listed out. It sounds like quite an impressive group like that, actually, which is great. Yeah, so, I mean, this isn't very formal, but the kind of first item that we promised was an update on, or just kind of a discussion, a Kickstarter on the new way that the world is ending, which is the Iran energy crisis. Feels a bit unfair to call it Iran's, put them on the blame, but obviously, you know, since we've last met, there have been the kind of the international nature of energy policy has been forefronted with Trump's invasion of Iran or conflicts over in Iran and the consequences of that. Obviously, that has caused a global oil crisis. And oil prices, really all petrochemicals and fossil fuel prices to spike, even though it's not really directly impacted by the particular blockade. So it's impacted natural gas, and it's impacted LNG, and it's impacted oil, and it's impacted, you know, in all its various forms, as well as a bunch of other stuff. That has a kind of direct consequence in that those fuels are more expensive, but obviously it has indirect consequences as well, insofar as everything or a load of stuff uses those fuels as a kind of like, you know, to get around, for, you know, it's an integral part of supply chains, and so it, you know, it's thrown the economy into a thing. I'm not telling you stuff you don't know here, but just to kind of like lay it out. And this the big issue is that oil, especially, but also all energy to some extent, is essentially just relying on international market pricing as the kind of baseline of where we are. So it means that the cost of doing business is up. In the UK, we obviously have the price cap, which caps energy bills. So energy bills at the moment aren't up, although we are expecting an announcement in a couple of weeks, which will put them up by a few £100s on average for the next price cap period, which is a 3-year period from July to September, I think. So we are expecting that to go up, but at the moment, non-domestic energy is not capped and is done at this kind of wholesale price. So we're seeing that the cost of doing business, and therefore do other things like run the NHS or drive your car or do whatever else, is also up. We've seen some interventions from government on that. The British Industrial Competitive Scheme, BICS, which is a kind of way of cutting the energy costs for certain, mostly manufacturing industries, has been expanded and backdated. None of this applies yet, but in the future it will compensate for high costs this year, is the idea. There are some other kind of tweaks there. The government have announced wholesale contracts for difference, which is a a scheme to incentivize more of older energy generation sites across the country to move into a sort of static way of paying them, a kind of fixed price for their energy generation, so that we don't get the sort of spikes in the cost of energy. And there's a bunch of other bits. There's solar panel rollout has been extended, and plug-in solar, so you can put one on your balcony or in your garden or something, has all been kind of. I mean, this is all good. This is good. This is the TEC position is good, but clearly not enough. A nice first step. So we're calling for a lot more there, and obviously our affiliates are at a national level. It also all came slightly after, but obviously kind of closely related to the new policy announcements on community energy, so support for community energy, and the Warm Homes Plan, which again is about sort of decentralized energy production in a way. And so I think there's these kind of announcements, these kind of efforts for at a national level for things to go further and faster and be better and better directed to supporting cost of living reductions at this time. But with that kind of framing, there's also a huge place for grassroots activists and like local and regional activists within the trade union movement to start calling for the kind of just transition stuff louder and locally. All the problems with doing that notwithstanding, this is just a good opportunity for us to kind of double down on that this is hugely important. There are quite a lot of grants available that we can, are available in one way or another, that we could shout a little bit about, and there's something about local organizing that we could expand or focus on or campaign on to look at ways to insulate particular communities in our particular localities. Because this is, I mean, as I say, to kind of wrap it all up, I guess it's not an oil crisis, it's a cost of living crisis, it's an inflation crisis, it's a matter that affects people's health, and it's something that affects people's livelihoods and ability to get jobs and ability to travel around and see their friends and everything else. And so it's horrible that this kind of one decision by one man, basically, as it often is, can throw a huge amount of progress and a huge amount of stability that we were hoping to get towards in the global economy into chaos. And we can be angry about that, but we can also maybe get organized around that. So I don't know if we wanted to, I mean, that was, a bit of a spiel, but I don't know if we just want to kind of reflect on that here or have any contributions.
How are people feeling now? Campaigning has changed, hasn't it? Certainly for us. But we, before the election, we were thinking, oh, now we've got to push on community energy. Now there's a real chance to move on that. We're in a sort of slight impasse in Wakefield. How do other people feel in places that aren't quite as badly affected as we have been? We're all thinking. Oh, Joe's got. I'm sorry. It's hard on Teams, isn't it? You can't see it both.
Yeah. Well, just to say, I'm in Bradford, so we're also in a holding pattern right now. But yeah, I mean, obviously, it's pretty grim in that respect in terms of how things, will unfold locally. But so I was interested in what you were saying in terms of the sort of demands for a just transition, just in a sense what you were thinking there in relation to obviously, aware of some of, for example, Dave, you're on the call, the sort of some of the demands that GMB members have had about, what this might mean for them. I was just wondering if there's anything specific you were thinking of, or if that's a conversation we should be having. Is that what you're trying to stimulate the conversation here?
I mean, I can come back. True, we'll come to you in a sec. I mean, I can come back. Like it felt when Catherine and I were thinking about this, it felt like we should not let this go unaddressed, because it's obviously it's an issue that affects net zero and approaches towards that, and it's just there's something kind of just sad that we're living through another oil crisis when we on the call all know that we should be further along and it shouldn't be impacting us in this kind of way. And so I think that's where we're at. I mean, we can we can go through TUC kind of additional calls, which are essentially for more and more business support and more kind of cost of living support, social tariff for folks, to, to kind of take people on low incomes off the kind of high energy spikes of prices that we're seeing. It's about organizing in workplaces, getting more, future proofing. We should be rolling out more solar panels and things across industrial sites so that we're taking the edge off. We should be also just paying for more energy, make it a lot less expensive for business to operate, especially kind of some of our vital national industries that are kind of, it's a kind of national security kind of thing around them. And so I mean we could go through all that in a bit more detail, but they're the kind of calls I think you maybe expect us to make. But it also kind of redoubles the urgency to think about decentralized energy and community energy and kind of local ways of insulating themselves from these kind of crises. Like, imagine if your workplace was essentially off grid, it wouldn't make a difference, to your job, or I mean, less of a difference, or or imagine if your house was, or your community. And so it's just kind of hopefully, I don't know, refocuses our way of thinking, given that. Yeah. But maybe Trig has something else to.
Yeah. No, I mean mine. It sits around the workplace, doesn't it? Mine more so than community and that. So it's obviously a massive worry with high energy users, glass, ceramics. They just don't know what the future holds. The election hasn't really had any impact. We knew they sort of knew it was going to happen, didn't we? So maybe not as devastating. I'm in Wakefield as well, but maybe not as devastating as that. But we knew something would happen. What's concerning is the amount of reps and the amount of workers that seem to be going towards reform when we've surveyed them, and that's a bit scary, like. But there seems to be a drive towards net zero still. There seems to be a lot of positivity around it, a lot of growth. I think the worrying more than anything is that the security of investment, basically, if the Labour government isn't in after their term, because these investments are long term, what happens with that? So that's a bit of a concern for them. Interestingly, I've just got off the phone with somebody in Climate Jobs New York, and they've got the opposite problem to us, where they think they'll have a left-wing government maybe in 3 or 4 years, and we've just got ours, and we're going to lose ours, and they had theirs and they've lost theirs. So they've been talking about the Biden sort of stuff that they've been working with around the Inflation Reduction Act and stuff, and how it's sort of turned on its head, and then we've got the sort of semi-opposite problem. So strange environment at the moment, really strange environment. And I've just copped for the political report at GMB Congress as well, so I've got to try and convince the 300, 400 people on the floor that Labour are doing okay. So that's the take up for this morning. So just to throw that in.
Yeah. Yes. Easy. Yes. I'm sure you'll do a very, very good job, and we'll try and make sure you have some ideas to put in. Yeah. Yes. Have we? I can see Julie's wanted to come in here. Thank you, Julie.
Yeah, just around the more general stuff you were saying around the war. We had a really good motion come to our Unison branch around the continued militarism, because there's been some quite inspiring strikes in Germany in schools against the conscription that's going to be happening there. And actually, that kind of militarism is seeping into our schools here too. Things like the Armed Forces Day, and which is a very unapologetic glorification of war, basically. What this motion called for was for educators to boycott Armed Forces Day and refuse to take part in it, because it has seen pretty horrific things where primary school children are encouraged to hold arms and things like that. So I thought it was a really good, positive kind of pushback against this increasing militarism.
Awful, isn't it? That. Wait, we'll see what our AGM's saying about that. But yeah, that's awful. Stuart, do you want to come in?
Sorry, you mute it somewhere else on the screen. Yeah, I was just picking up on what Dave was saying. we know in Wakefield, and Dave, I know you're in Wakefield, and you talked about glass industry, that there is a pathway for glass to electrify, and the issue is getting the grid connections, and now we're also hearing about competition with data centers for grid capacity as well, which I think has the potential to really undermine the electrification of actual productive industry. And I think there's an honest conversation, and maybe quite a tricky conversation, that we'll have to have about who deserves the grid and who doesn't. And then if the data centers are going to go off grid, there was a story earlier this week about them using gas, which is going to completely undermine the whole climate movement anyway. So there's a lot of churn and uncertainty in what people think the economy is going to do and what it's really going to do. And I think there's a lot of watching to be done around in this space as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. And then Leanne, do you want to come in?
Yeah, my concern is about the argument with green energy. I live just on the border of North Yorkshire, and we're proposing a 30-mile solar farm in our area, and we understand the importance of green energy, but the message really is on rooftops and not in fields. And I do think that with the change in government, local government, there is a risk that our ability to protest, and the fact that we've got the pressure because of what's happening in Iran, it's going to be harder to be an activist in regards to solar panels being out in the countryside and not on the top of roofs. The majority of the electric that will be generated will be going to big corporations. It won't be going to locals. It's already kind of been promised out. So there's no investment locally. It will just be damage that'll happen locally on a massive scale. And we're talking big compounds with barbed wire around and trucks up and down road. It's going to really change the landscape of this side of North Yorkshire. And I think it's going to be difficult for us to keep going and protest against it.
There's certainly a lot of challenges, aren't there? There's a lot of challenges that we're facing now, and it's going to be trying to steer our way through is going to be a challenge. You know, we were in a discussion the other day, and there was trying to work out whether solar or wind had long-term repercussions on fields. And of course, with wind turbines take longer to, need a lot of concrete underneath them, where with solar it will be removable. And so there's this sort of, when eventually the roofs are possible to put the rooftop on there, there's a temporary nature about the solar on fields and whatever. But these are difficult discussions, aren't they? They're very difficult discussions. We have to make sure we're talking about biodiversity and sheep as well. You must get that. There has to be some gain in this for farming and for whatever as we come into these discussions. Yes. It's a challenging time, and we know it is. That's why we gave ourselves this title of Just Transition, didn't we? We know that that's a difficult thing to make change and to make it in a just way, but we have to try our best on that. Pat wants to come in here.
Yeah, one of the issues for us when we've met as women, that is that sometimes the women are still invisible within this whole sector and this change of climate. I know there's ones on here that know, but it's from that point of view of how would they look at how in their communities and themselves. And I can remember going back to last year when we were talking about the weather and the heat and that and the effects that has. And I mean, I'm part of the Women in Climate group there, and I'm also was invited into the Women in Energy group from obviously part of Unison's sort of is that we have energy in there, and I was invited to their Women in Energy group. And sometimes while we talk about the aspects that we're talking about in here, the women are really thinking about them effects that it's got to them on a day-to-day living and viewing of how they're effective. So from me being in this wider group and that there, but again thinking about how women view the climate as to their and it has shown that is some inequality, and that women sometimes, and this has come out of the international work that's been done around women and climate as well. So I was just thinking about how do we fit into that, and how do we reach these women, which are often our lowest paid in these jobs and that out there, with the issues around the climate. When we're talking about making decisions, it's about how do we reach them people as well, because for me that is one of the biggest things that we've got, is how do we get it out there. And in a local and in an area where Reform have just won the council, and a council that's been very progressive with the climate. I'm well aware that when they went into Durham, they just took away all the issues to do with climate and that, and then looked at the equality around that, the spending and the costs. I don't know the exact figures, but I was in a meeting the other day where one of our women from Durham says that the savings that they're made aren't the millions and all this that they said they were going to make by taking the climate and some of the equalities issues out. So it'd be interesting. I'm waiting to see what happens in my area around that as well.
Yes, it is quite terrifying, quite terrifying. And we shall wait. But we all know that you need a roundabout that's got a pattern on a red cross pattern. It's a very important thing. That's you gardening for the world, isn't it? Pete wants to come in. Yeah. Pete,
yeah, thank you. I've got there finally. Just following kind of the strand in the conversation about inappropriate developments, to highlight that round in Calderdale we have the so-called Calderdale Energy Park plans for Walshaw sort of protected peatland, and it is a site that I think either has been or there are attempts for it to be designated as a national infrastructure site. Sort of 30 plus very large turbines on protected on protected peatland. There is a strong community campaign, basically sort of saying that wind energy is fine, but sort of not at the expense of peatland, which being sort of high up above a valley that floods has a lot of use and benefits in terms of water retention, and kind of people not wanting to see those benefits compromised by this rather ghastly plan.
Thanks. I mean, it's complicated stuff, isn't it? And I think this is what I always say about green reps and green organising generally. It requires this this kind of level of maturity. They're all difficult decisions. There will always playoffs here. But it kind of, if you can bring it down to, okay, this is what the workforce in a particular place, or this is what a representation of the majority class in a particular place wants. This is what we can make the good argument for, that is about justice, is about fairness, is about equality of opportunity, and is about a sustainable future. Then I think it helps us into that space. That is obviously difficult for all these kind of reasons, but yeah, I think it's useful to have that conversation. Catherine, I wonder if it's useful to to move on to make sure that we get through it.
Make sure that Sarah has a chance to speak on their topic. So, shall we move on to Sarah's? Sarah's done lots of work on schools. We make lots of assumptions and say, oh, we can do that in schools. Oh, that can be done in schools. And actually, when you come to try to put climate or nature or anything into the curriculum, it's proven quite difficult for people with quite a fixed curriculum. But Leeds Development Education Centre have led the way in showing where you can put it in on quite a prescribed curriculum. So I thought it would be useful for people to hear what you can do in schools and how Leeds DEC have managed to do that. Except they're now called Global Learning Leads. So I will remember that they're now called Global Learning Leads. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you. I think I'm sharing something. Is that right? Can everyone see that?
You are, yeah, we can see it.
Oh, cool. Okay. So yeah, I'm from Global Learning Leads, and we were, as Catherine just said, a development education centre. So we're about 50 years old, quite old, and still here by the skin of our teeth. So Catherine asked me to just say something about specifically our climate work, but in general, what we do is we're always coming from a kind of a point of view with our history and kind of our ethos of global justice, kind of that sort of global solidarity, and so the climate work that we do is really cited in that, and kind of thinking about just as people have been talking about on a local level, but also kind of connecting with communities and schools around the world. And other themes that we work on are intercultural understanding and inequalities and migration, which obviously all really intersect with work on climate. So one of the things which, where we originally came to working on the climate curriculum was thinking, what knowledge, skills and values does a young person need when they leave statutory education? We're clearly in a really different situation now. We're in a really, we don't know what the future is. So we have to kind of go right back to the beginning with thinking about what are we educating for, because our curriculum is not adequate for the world that the young people are growing up in. And so we thought about that and then wrote a series of learning outcomes. So as Catherine said, there's a very prescribed curriculum, but sorry, my daughter's just come in the room. Yeah, is that all right? Yeah, very prescribed curriculum. And so what we're trying to do is just to make it possible. I noticed that there were some people in schools on the call who would really understand this, that teachers are absolutely up to here in terms of all the demands that are on them. So what we're trying to do with the climate curriculum is do something which works with what's in existence, recognizing that it's not adequate, but working with it so that it's doable for teachers within their workload. And these are the 8 areas of the curriculum. And I guess I guess what's often has been taught traditionally in schools around climate is very much cited in science and geography, but this is absolutely right across the curriculum: citizenship, art, maths, all of the different areas of the curriculum. These things will fit into. So I won't say loads about this, but I could definitely talk about this for hours. So if anybody does want to find out more, then contact me and let me know. So we've been working with a number of schools in Leeds, implementing the climate curriculum, and including the school where I now work full time for Global Learning Leeds, but I was in school until recently. So including the school where I used to work, we implemented it. And as a year 6 teacher, as kids were coming up, I really saw the difference. So they were starting to have that vocabulary and have all those concepts, and we could kind of take it a step further year on year as they'd kind of been working on it throughout school, because it's very much a whole school approach. We've been working with a number of academics at the University of Leeds to develop it, and they're not just kind of climate science academics, but they're across the board: politics, economics, different academics from different disciplines. And this is just an example. So this is one of the areas of the climate curriculum, and you can see how we've got it divided up by phase. So kind of end of key stage 1, lower key stage 2, up key stage 2, and then key stage 3 and key stage 4. So there's a progression, which people who are familiar with schools will absolutely know. This is how schools work. In everything that matters, you have to have progression in what you're learning about. So why not have it in climate as well? Because that's the way we learn. We build on what we've learned. We don't just go back to the same thing time and time again. So we also have a number of different resources. This is an example. So this is a positive action resource that we've produced with lots of stories. Some are from Leeds and some are from around the world. Kind of just thinking about bringing back a bit of hope, and not. Yeah, so responses is one of the areas of the climate curriculum. Kind of what are people doing on a personal level, on a local level, kind of businesses, non-governmental organisations, local politics, national politics, and globally. So it's kind of looking at all those positives in that part 4 of the curriculum, which is what this is really looking at as well. And just for those, I'll stop sharing, but just for those people who do have links and connections with schools, it would be really lovely to share what we do. We're always looking to work with more schools. We do training courses for teachers on implementing the curriculum, on kind of background knowledge, but also on kind of how to embed that within the curriculum. And I'm just going to share you an invitation, which is to an event that we've got coming up soon, which is a climate justice art exhibition, which a number of primaries and secondaries and a college are collaborating on in Leeds City Museum. And it's an invitation which is, if anybody's got connections with any decision makers, and that might well include within unions, that will be really lovely if you could circulate that invitation. It's very Leeds based, and I know people are from quite widely across the region. But anybody that's in the environs of Leeds, there's a number of children and young people, pupils and students across the city who've been working on themes of climate justice. And that's climate justice kind of global south, global north, but also intergenerational climate justice and also interspecies climate justice. And they'd absolutely love to have a really good audience of decision makers. So that's elected people and maybe businesses and faith leaders and all kinds of people to come for them to talk to about their artwork and about their ideas, and amplify their voice. I'd really appreciate people sharing that. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much indeed, Sarah. That's great. Can I just say, I went along to the conference that Leeds, Global Learning Leeds organised, and Sarah particularly organised in March, which was fabulous. I can't say. And there were children that were quite young, weren't they? Quite, junior. Some were very low junior, if they were actually juniors.
Yeah.
Right to sort of years 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, sort of through, and they were being talked to and being talked, and they were telling by professors and doctors, and they were and the academics were listening to them. It was an absolutely fabulous thing. So the mutual audience, it is an enriching thing to hear. So please, if some of you do want to go, do go along to their thing. The presentation, I'm hoping that other people will take up that opportunity. We know that some of the work that Sarah did for a couple of years ago for COP actually got to the COP and was seen by the COP delegates and had some impact, for there. Leanne, do you wanted to comment there?
Yeah, it sounds fantastic what you're doing, Sarah. I just wondered, how do you negotiate with schools that have already got full curriculums to find space to introduce something like this? I think going back to Pat's comment earlier about women worrying about the climate, I worry about my grandchildren's future, and I worry about the lack of education at an early age. But I also know that there's a lot of other social issues that happen within the classroom day to day. How do we convince schools that they need to make room for something like this?
That's a great question. And I would absolutely say that every single school has already got a full curriculum, in overfull, jam-packed and squished down and jumped up and down on top of. But the way that we've designed the learning outcomes is that they go alongside other planning. So no school's going to have to replan. Some schools actually, some schools do have specific days, like a drop-down day where they focus on climate, but that's in addition to it being kind of like to the learning outcomes being woven into their existing things. It's kind of the idea of the climate curriculum is it's kind of bread and butter, but it goes really flexibly into what they're already doing. So for example, primary is what I know best. Nearly every primary school will have a topic on the Victorians at lower key stage 2. And you wouldn't believe how many schools do a topic on the Victorians. And it's great, it's really interesting. It's all about street children and inventions, but they don't mention fossil fuels. They don't focus on that fact that that's where all our historic greenhouse gas emissions, this is our kind of history. And all it takes is one lesson in a scheme of work, or even just the teacher having that awareness and wanting and seeing that opportunity to bring it in, just a slide on a PowerPoint or an activity within a lesson. And then it can just tweak and refocus. So it's not about a whole nother load of things, but it's about the teachers having the awareness and the confidence and the support from SLT as well to prioritise just those little tweaks that make a real difference.
Thank you. Great. And then Jessica?
Hiya, amazing effort. As part of my day job, I'm a senior flood risk management officer, and we also go into schools, mainly primary. We're trying to brainwash those because we've given up on the grown-ups, so we're trying to brainwash the kids. And it's working, which is good. We're starting to work our way up into colleges, and we've also kind of come up with similar things that you've said, but specifically for flood resilience and drought resilience as well, because we're doing it in partnership with Yorkshire Water and the Environment Agency and East Riding Council as well. I was just wondering if you had any hints or tips on engaging schools, because sometimes we can email, we can call, and the first response is, yeah, that sounds amazing. And then the next thing, we don't hear anything from them. And in some cases, the Department for Education often offer money, and we go into schools, we build some flood resilience into those schools, but we'll build them in a way that the kids then maintain them. So the kids can then actually like learn hands-on what they are, and they get to look after it and take ownership of that, which they love. And we've done successfully in a number of schools. But it's still, like you say, it's so hard to get in to start with. So I just wondered if you had any tips on that. And then my second was more of an offer of, if you needed any flood type specific hints or tips or resources, then definitely drop me an email and I can send you anything you want.
That's brilliant, and I definitely will. So something else that we do in Leeds is similar to the West Yorkshire Eco Educators that Catherine convenes. We've got a Climate Joy network of schools in Leeds, and I'd love to share your details. Do you work in Leeds?
No, I'm Hull City Council.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
Hull City
cool.
Council. So obviously there will be my equivalents over at Leeds City Council, who I could try and get the details for if you don't already have them to share.
That would be really useful. Thank you. Yeah. And in that answer to your first question, I wish I knew. It is really hard getting into schools, but yeah, as someone who's recently been in school, I 100% understand why. And I think my only answer is absolute persistence and shamelessness, that you've just got to keep on, because it's not because people don't want to connect with you. It's just because they're so overloaded, and that emails aren't actually the core of their work. So emails are like the extra on top of everything else that they've already,
they've already done a full day. We're very conscious of time, and so I'm going to sort of think, but Jessica, please contact, do contact me or whatever else as well for the eco-educators, because we now do that Yorkshire and Humber wide.
Sarah, can you pop your email in the chat and I'll pop mine in as well?
I will. Great. Can I just share one other thing very quickly, which is we do a Global Learning Awards, which is coming up, and there's actually a week left for nominations. So something that we really want to promote is schools who are already doing amazing stuff. So if you know of any schools that I've just put the criteria in the chat, and this isn't just climate. There's a couple of different climate kind of award criteria on there, but also global justice learning and community involvement and various other things. So if you have a look at them and think of a school that you think you'd like to celebrate, we'd love for people to nominate them.
That's great. Thank you very much indeed, and you've put that in the chat, so that's great. Joe, is it a quick one? Sam's very anxious. We want to move on to other things as well.
Yeah, super quick. So thank you so much, Sarah. Just you've put your thing in the chat, so that's fantastic. I think there's lots to talk about. The university, I'm sure most universities also kind of have quite interesting links with schools in terms of access programs to certain sort of subject areas. So there may be a sneaky route in there, and I recognise some of the people that you've been working with at Leeds Uni who've also fed into some of the work that we've been doing, which is a more sort of global climate action course. But so I'll drop you a line basically.
That sounds really good, and I think it links quite nicely with what Sam wanted to talk about next as our next theme, wasn't there? That course that you were just mentioning.
Yeah, so we can segue nicely into that. So in the last one of these, Joe mentioned that there is a course that I have forgotten the name of, but what is it called, Joe? You're on the call, so you can remind me.
Oh, you've just made yourself mute.
We call it climate action training, but it's actually it's on the Future Learn platform, which sometimes is charged for, but it is we've negotiated from the university to have this as kind of free access to anybody that wants to take it, and the full title is Climate Action Training: Tackling the Climate Crisis for a Better World.
It's a good title.
Which is a good title. Thank you, Joe. Which we've heard of in this forum before, and which essentially sets folks up who take the course to think about how they can do climate action. It's very joined up climate action, so it's kind of very much in that just transition mold that we're keen on, rather than kind of abstract. So we've talked about this in the past, and it's obviously a useful resource for green reps or climate activists within the climate movement, within the labour movement, who you want to kind of take climate action, impactful climate action, but want to make sure that's ensconced within their work. They want to recognise their power as workers, as members of a trade union, as members of community, and like use that as much as possible. So Joe's popped the link in the chat there. The proposal is here: do we want? It's got 4 modules within that. Do we want to between us here form a caucus for what I'm now going to call a national study group? Maybe there's a better way of doing that. That we open up to trade unions across the country to essentially go through it in tandem. So it would normally be set up as kind of one module a week, but that's quite a lot of work. So if we maybe met 4 times over a period of 4 months and just kind of did a module each, so we would go through the content. It's reading, it's a bit of exercise, it's kind of thinking about a thing, and then we'd reconvene on a big call, potentially with a tutor to support us, and think and reflect on what we've been reading and learning about in that time, and maybe do a bit of the stuff that we sometimes do in this call, which is about, okay, well, how would I operationalize that in my workplace? So it would be, four meetings over 4 months in the evening with Leeds Business School tutor support, if we've got that available. And I mean, if we get a caucus here, kind of a core group here that we could make the business case for putting the resource into, then we can advertise nationally and see if we can get folks from across the movement to join in. You don't need to say yes now. I don't need to put you on the spot. But I think I'd be interested to do it thoroughly. I started it and didn't finish, if I can say that without and so it would be a good way of holding myself to account. But potentially that's the case for some of you guys as well. So that's the pitch.
It seemed like a good idea to me. I don't know what others think. That sort of opportunity to reflect and think with the materials seems like a positive, and I can see some nodding there, so that seems like a
well, what we can do is we can I'll share that link in the emails that go round, and we can do a sort of little sign up thing, and then find a time that works for folks, and kick off maybe in the next couple of months.
Do you want me to just show you what it actually looks like, so people have a sense of what it actually is? Yeah, I'll just share. Make sure I'm sharing the right thing. Okay, I'll go to my screen. Sorry, I'm doing this the wrong way around. So there's this thing called Future Learn, which is this takes you into. You have to sign it up, but don't offer any money. There's no way. Some Future Learn courses are, you have to pay for, but as I say, we managed to negotiate with the uni to make this open access. And basically, the way it's structured is got these 4 parts. The sort of both what's crisis, in a sense what we know is the challenge, but also thinking about, as people have been mentioning, how to have hope in all of that, and the things that we can do, and moving on from just thinking about individual actions to what we know what needs to be done collectively, then thinking about change, then thinking about advocating for change, and then kind of more about visions for the future and action. So the idea is this is not necessarily directed specifically at workers or trade unions. There's over 6,000 people have taken this course so far from all over the world. We've had teachers, we've had all kinds of people. But Sam was suggesting that what we could then do is have this group, which I'm not teaching. It's very much you work through the materials. There are videos, there's links to things to read, there's sort of questions to help you think. It's that kind of self-directed learning, but to have a group that then comes back together on this monthly, whatever people think is the appropriate frequency, once they've had an opportunity to look through the stuff and think about what it means for them. And everybody's in a different boat. You're in different roles in your union, you're in different community networks, etc. So there's no prescription about what that should be, but it's just an opportunity for people to come together and talk about what they think they can do in the world that they're in
our new circumstances.
Indeed.
It's an email worth sending out, I think, isn't it? And then we can see how people, if people want to sign up, it's a good opportunity that we can take up. We weren't imagining it being an enormous amount of time commitment. We wanted to make sure that we were holding each other to read the books and read the papers and think about it, but to make sure that we'd planned a bit of time would possibly be the way to do it. We usually spend some time in our, so we're doing email on that. Any other things that people want to communicate to other people? We've got ourselves quite a short time here. But if if people do have other thoughts that they want to share, I personally, I'm just trying to work out how I'm going to do the meeting tomorrow. Whether I'm going to go to the outside the council chamber to protest, or whether I'm going to go and listen to inside the council chamber to hear the first speeches. That's my dilemma at the moment, as someone who will have to go into a JCC meeting with the new reform. But other people will have other questions. Or other thoughts that they might want to share.
I'm just flashing that map up for context here to show the change that we've seen. So before and after.
Sam,
Yes.
could you just do that again, just a little bit slower?
Yeah. So this is what we did
That's
have.
previous.
It's a little small. And then this is our new majorities. So there's a lot less red, basically, is where we're at. Which, mixed bag, but for progress that's relevant to the reason we're meeting here makes that more complicated. I think it's probably a fair way of saying that.
We find out, so our full exec meet tomorrow in Leeds City Council. So we'll find out tomorrow how portfolios are going to be split, what the exec team looks like, who's leading what scrutiny boards, etc. I don't know if we'll get publicly, it'll be published tomorrow or Thursday. But that's a bit of a watch item for us is tomorrow.
Yeah. I think Bradford's got the same date, haven't they? They're meeting at the same time as our council is. Pete Keel.
Sorry, Pete. Sorry, I'm aware that I kind of cut you off last time, so it's nothing personal. Catherine, I'm just going to have to drop now, but do continue. And lovely to see you all. Thanks for joining.
Yes, it's when our next meeting was going to be. That's the bit we haven't worked on. We normally say quarterly, don't we?
We do, yeah.
Yeah. And we've tried lunchtime meetings. Dave Douglas is, we've been trying to work on whether to have meetings at lunchtime or whether this tea time meeting, which we seems to have brought in, a group of people, which is a slightly different group of people from our previous slots at lunchtime. So it may be worth trying again, the tea time slot. Yeah, in a quarter. Right, now, Pete, come on. We can't hear you.
Yes, I was just saying that the Bradford Council annual meeting was today. Calderdale and Wakefield seem to be tomorrow.
All right. Yeah, it was Bradford. I missed that. I was wishing, perhaps. Yes, we shall find out. It's going to be an interesting
time. The Bradford meeting is on. There's a webcast of it that can be looked at, and it looks like the first person who was nominated for leader, who I suspect might have been a Reform councillor, was not accepted, and so they had to have an adjournment to work out who next to put forward as leader.
Right. Oh well, let's wait and see. It will. It's a new political landscape that we're all going to be working with, and obviously we've got to stop the boats and as well at the same time. Some of us are quite constrained on time. We don't generally do any. And has anybody got particular things that they would like to highlight to us at this point? You're okay. We'll re-meet. Do we meet again? Quarterly is quite tricky when you get to the summer period because July, August. So that whole period. Are we meeting? Do we want to meet again in July, or do we want to meet in leave it through August into September? September then is quite short when we're trying to do things for COP, but that's. Dave?
I'd just let Sam put it out and see what response we get, you know, and to get a good poll, then do one. You know, if not, then just push it forward a bit. That's what I'd do.
Yes, and as we've got this learning group as well that might be meeting over the summer, then that might be as good as anything to do for that period of time. Well, I think that's... does anyone have anything else that they would like to share with us? I think we'll leave it at that then. Thank you very much indeed, everybody, for joining us. It is always an interesting discussion. Thank you very much indeed, Sarah, for your... I think it will have shown people what is possible. Please do think about joining the Global Learning Leads in their exhibition. It will be interesting. We're trying to push. I'm speaking here as an eco-educator myself, and I'm going to go to an AGM and do this in 15 minutes' time. We're trying to make sure that we get as much climate action going on during Great Big Green Week, which happens in June, and trying to make sure that schools are still taking action and doing as much, and that needs other people to support it. So I think that Jessica Fox, we might be contacting, was, you know, trying to tell that to the other Yorkshire and Humber teachers, because the eco-educators now goes, we've been West Yorkshire eco-educators, but now the NEU across the region sponsors the sort of the eco-educators. So it's so we do get, I do know the whole NEU people, and this is one of those networks that works across the unions to have the impact with people in the grassroots, in their schools, in their workplaces. So let's try and get that message out to you for you. For everybody else, thank you very much for coming. Thank you, everybody. It's been really good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you all. See you all.
Bye.